The Pennsylvania Game is made possible in part by
the Pennsylvania Public Television Network. The network receives funding from the Commonwealth to provide public television for all Pennsylvanians.
The foggiest location in the United States is Cape Disappointment, Washington, which has nearly 3.5 months of thick fog each year. Even so, Pennsylvania's mountains and valleys are some of the foggiest inland locations in the eastern part of the nation. Which one of the following months typically has the most days with dense fog? A. February, B. April, C. August, or D. October? The answer is D. October. While the vibrant colors of fall are reaching their peak across Pennsylvania, they're commonly masked by the misty morning fogs of October. The lengthening nights of October often promote rapid cooling of the Earth's surface on clear nights, so that by the wee hours of the morning, the temperature has fallen to the dew point. Condensation occurs and fog forms. The most dense fog usually occurs near bodies of water, such as rivers and lakes, where there's a supply of low-level moisture. In 1688, 4 Germantown Friends, or Quakers, wrote what became known as the Germantown Petition. The famous document was the first of its kind produced in the United States. Did the Germantown protest call for A. a woman's right to own land, B. the end of slavery, C. the prohibition of alcohol, or D. gun control? The answer is B. The end of slavery. Written in 1688, the Germantown Petition is the first known anti-slavery protest. Despite its limited immediate effect, the petition highlighted the contradiction between the declarations of liberty and the realities of slavery in America. In 1775, the Quakers took a leading part in the creation of the Pennsylvania Society for the Abolition of Slavery. A year later, the Philadelphia Friends meeting disowned slaveholders. In 1780, when 6,000 Negro slaves lived in Pennsylvania, the state adopted the nation's first abolition law. Although the law had loopholes, the concept of personal freedom had so much support that by 1808, local citizens found it nearly impossible to hold slaves. Born in Bohemia, John Neumann emigrated to the United States in 1836 and devoted his life to the spread of Catholicism. Known as the father of the parochial school system, the preacher, retreat master, and champion of the poor was appointed 4th Bishop of Philadelphia in 1852. For what else is Bishop Neumann famous? A. He introduced bingo as a church fundraiser. B. He became the first American male to achieve sainthood. C. One of his most acclaimed sermons was adapted into a popular song, Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? Or D. He published a landmark text outlining 60 arguments against the practice of corporal punishment. The answer is B. Bishop John N. Neumann was the first American male to achieve sainthood. Although he lived less than 50 years, his accomplishments were great and his vision even greater. Known for developing the nation's first parochial school system, he was proficient in 6 languages so he could preach to the swelling masses of immigrants. He introduced 6 teaching orders into the diocese, established the first parochial school to serve a black neighborhood, and founded the religious order, the Sisters of the Third Order of St. Francis of the Glen Riddle in Aston, Pennsylvania. He was nominated for sainthood in 1897 and was declared venerable 14 years later. In 1963, after 2 miraculous cures obtained through the intercession of Bishop Neumann were medically authenticated, he was beatified, proclaimed worthy of religious veneration, and canonized in 1977. In 1991, Todd Simons took over an old factory building in Pittsburgh that was designed by George Westinghouse in 1870. After some minor renovations, the former Westinghouse Air Brake Company became home to a new enterprise known as the RedZone. What does RedZone produce? A. Dried hot pepper products. B. Statistics used by college and professional football teams to assist them in planning their strategies. C. Railroad warning signals. Or D. Rosie the Robot. The answer is D, Rosie the Robot. The block-long factory building formerly used by Westinghouse Air Brake Company is now the assembly and test shop for Pittsburgh-based RedZone Robotics. One of the company's leading products is Rosie the Robot, named after the Jetsons space-age robot Rosie. Built to work in extremely hazardous environments or danger zones, Rosie the Robot is made to go places humans can't go, such as nuclear waste pits or battlefields. Other robotic systems are made to take apart buildings where nuclear weapons are assembled. Ironically, Westinghouse, which operates about half of the federal government's nuclear weapons facilities, is RedZone's largest customer. Located on 8th and Race Streets in Philadelphia, this unusual museum contains items ranging from the ornate to the pedestrian. With over 700 items, including 2-pound sabots, which date back to the late 18th century, the collection spans history and the globe. What kind of museum is it? A, a shoe museum. B, a musical instrument museum. C, a taxidermy museum. Or D, an axe museum. The answer is A. The Shoe Museum, located on the 6th floor of the Pennsylvania College of Podiatric Medicine, is home to some 700 pairs of shoes. More than 250 pairs are on exhibit, ranging from ornate leather or silk shoes worn by the well-heeled, including the first footwear of Nancy Reagan, Betty Ford, and Mamie Eisenhower, to those worn by commoners. Among the pairs on display are 2-heeled abalone inlaid shoes from Morocco, a well-worn pair of 6.5-inch high heels from the 1920s, and the late 18th century sabots. During the French Revolution, disgruntled workers wore the heavy wooden and iron shoes with their cleat-like studded soles to trample their employers' farm fields. In later years, discontented workers tossed sabots into machinery, giving rise to the term saboteur. John Wilkes Booth launched his acting career in 1857 at the Arch Street Theater in Philadelphia. By 1863, he was earning $20,000 a year as one of the country's best-known actors, when several of his acting friends suggested they go to Western Pennsylvania to begin a joint investment venture. Did they A, form the Dramatic Oil Company, B, establish the first funeral parlor franchise, C, start the cosmetic firm that later became Revlon, or D, organize a theatrical talent agency in Pittsburgh? The answer is A. When news broke that Edwin Drake hit oil at Titusville, fortune hunters flocked to Western Pennsylvania. Among them were John Wilkes Booth and several acting friends who arrived in Franklin in early 1864. They purchased land along the Allegheny River and formed the Dramatic Oil Company. Although Booth was not an oil man at heart, he made periodic trips to inspect his wells. He once lodged at McHenry Hotel in Meadville, where the maid who cleaned his room reported finding a note scratched on his window pane. Quote, Abe Lincoln departed this life August 13, 1864, by the effects of poison. The inscription was dismissed as a drunk's practical joke. Meanwhile, Booth grew impatient with prospecting, and in the fall of 1864, gave up his oil interests and left Franklin for good. 8 months later, on April 14, 1865, John Wilkes Booth assassinated President Lincoln at Ford's Theater. Pennsylvania boasts a long list of official state symbols, including a state animal, a state insect, and a state flower. On July 17, 1982, the state's beautification and conservation plant was officially designated. What is it? A, columbine, B, rhododendron, C, crownvetch, or D, creeping phlox? The answer is C, crownvetch. There are 3 varieties of crownvetch: emerald, chemung, and pengift crownvetch, which is the official state beautification and conservation plant. First discovered in Pennsylvania by Dr. Fred Grau in 1935, it has since been extensively researched by Penn State. The name pengift was derived from Penn for Pennsylvania and gift for the farmer on whose land the plant was discovered. Penn Gift Crown Vetch is well adapted for road bank stabilization and erosion control, and since 1985 has been used extensively by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for this purpose. More recently, it has been recognized for its agricultural value as a source of forage for livestock and for soil insulation in no-till corn production.
A copy of the program you've just seen can be purchased through Penn State Media Sales at mediasales.psu.edu or by calling 800-770-2111.